Our Toastmaster this evening is one of our longer standing members. He has achieved many different milestones in his Toastmaster progress, including he recently has achieved his Advanced Communicator Bronze, and he's working towards finishing up the rest of his other communications in an effort to get his Distinguished Toastmasters through both our new Pathways program as well as the old program simultaneously, which is really impressive. Our Toastmaster this evening is Maurice Hyde.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and fellow Toastmasters, and fellow Toastmasters. We will go over the agenda. I, as Toastmaster, am emceeing the event for tonight. I will introduce speakers, table topic master, general evaluator, etc. And our grammarian for tonight is Rosemary.
So, as grammarian, I will be watching out for use of crutch words, and also if you will use the word of the day, which is germane, and the definition is an adjective, and the definition is closely or significantly related, relevant, pertinent. Used in a sentence, please keep your statements germane to the issue. Also, obsolete, closely related.
All right, thank you, Rosemary. Our timer for tonight is Mike.
So as the timer in Toastmasters, it is part of my responsibility to keep the meeting on track, make sure that we have each segment of our meeting end promptly, that no speaker in any way goes well over their time, and to give them feedback that they've spoken enough. So in order to have each person achieve their goals, what they want to do. I believe our first speech will be 4 to 6 minutes from Thomas, and am I right that our second speech will be 12 to 15?
10 to
15 minutes. And generally, our evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes, while table topics are 1 to 2 minutes.
All right. Our general evaluator for tonight is Cody.
Yes, I will be evaluating the meeting as a whole, keeping track how the meeting goes and giving a presentation on that, as well as doing the second evaluation of Toastmasters speech.
Thank you. And our table topics master for tonight is Diego.
So table topics is a really exciting portion of our meeting because it involves thinking quick on your feet. You will be given up to 2 minutes to speak on a topic unprompted that I will come up with. And I have a set of 5 to 6 questions ready to go that I will share with you once you commit to taking the lecture.
All right, thank you, Diego. So, I hope we have a smooth flowing meeting tonight. And remember the word of the day, germane, and during your speech or table topics, keep everything germane, and Michael and Tito. I'm just kidding. Now I will introduce the first speaker. The first speaker for tonight has been a Toastmaster for 1.5 to 2 years, I guess. And he has achieved his competent communicator. And he is performing his icebreaker for his path of effective coaching. Our first speaker for tonight is Thomas, and the title is Me and Dungeons and Dragons, I assume.
So, I grew up as a geek, a big geek. I was into comics books, I was into science, and most importantly, I was into role-playing games. This was the early 90s. There was really only one role-playing game back then. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And possibly my favorite part of playing the game Dungeons and Dragons was not getting killed by the Dungeon Master in a quest. My favorite part was character creation. This character creation is where you come up with all the stupid stuff your guy did to be a klutz or to be the super wise guy in the group. So, I invented many characters, but the one character I never created was a character based on me. Because being a geek, most geeks don't really, other than their interests in life, don't really like everything else about them. I was weak. Like I could barely do a push-up weak. But that's okay, because I was smart. At least to me, I was smart. Ask any of my teachers when I was getting a D, I wasn't that smart. But I was good. I was good enough. And I could fake it as a different character in Dungeons and Dragons. So if I created a character of myself today, just so you guys know, the top number you can get in any characteristic is an 18. The lowest is a 3. So if somebody had a 3 intelligence, they would not even be able to speak. That to give you an idea of exactly what a 3 intelligence would be. An 18 intelligence would be your Stephen Hawking's. Okay? So there's your range. So, having made it through my life, I would definitely have an 18 constitution. I have been in 3 car accidents, walked away from all of them without even a bruise, had a little whiplash from one of them when I hit a tree at 80 miles an hour. But, 18 constitution. This is the one good stat you're going to hear tonight. Because that's the only one I did well at. The next one, strength. At one point in my life, I would have had an 18 strength. I was a weightlifter. Yeah. All that testosterone flowing through me, and I was an aggressive person. But today I can barely do a push-up again like I was when I was a 12-year-old boy playing Dungeons and Dragons. So, we have a wonderful, probably around an 8. I can carry my groceries. Tight strength. The next important characteristic, possibly the most important, it'll keep your guy alive, is dexterity. It's how fast they can move. I have really fast reflexes. I can catch a cup before it spills most of the time. However, I am also the reason the cup is spilling. So that probably put me where? 4? Because yeah, you're really good, but you really wouldn't have to be good if you weren't so bad at just living life and tripping over your own 2 feet. That's the great part about this. My characters never had a 4 dexterity or an 8 strength, except for the one wizard I created. The one wizard I created actually kind of does resemble me, except he has no constitution, which is the opposite of who I end up being. Finally, you end up with wisdom. This is how much they can pull on their experience of the past to figure out the best path forward. Wise people are those sages that you see in your life. I am known for repeating mistakes. I lost my car insurance when I was 22 years old because I got 4 speeding tickets in a month on the same stretch of road for speeding up every time and being stopped by the same cop 3 of those times at the same time of night. So obviously, wisdom does not run deep. Why I was never going to be a cleric. Intelligence, I fluctuate depending on the subject from an 18 intelligence down to a 3. In most sciences, I'm an 18. I can muddle my way through and figure it out pretty quick, except for one. Geology, the study of rocks. Rocks don't change and I can't figure them out. So I would probably fall back down to a 12 in intelligence. Now the one place where this is the reason I played Dungeons and Dragons, that my stat was full on a 3 when I played, and most days still is a 3, is charisma. It may not seem like it right now, But when you meet me in a meeting at work, I'm the guy who sits there and I take notes. And I only say stuff when it needs to be said. And usually I tick someone off because I said it wrong. I'm the guy that gets everybody in the meeting mad at him within an hour. But that's okay, because then the rest of the group bond against that common enemy. And they succeed at getting anything done because I have become the guy who they all hate. So that's the character I would have ended up being created if I was in Dungeons & Dragons today. It's a crazy, mostly failing character, but that's okay. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Thomas. Our next speaker for tonight has been in Toastmasters for a number of years. And he will be coming out of the Better Speaker series, Controlling Your Fear. And the next speaker for tonight is Maurice. Fellow Toastmasters and fellow Toastmasters, tonight I'll be presenting out of the Better Speaker series, which is a series of presentations which goes toward your Advanced Communicator Silver, and that along with different other series that you can perform. You can do the successful club series and the leadership series, two out of either of those to achieve your advanced leadership bronze, and then the Better Speaker series or the successful club series, two of those to help you achieve your advanced communicator silver. Controlling your fear. If you've ever spoken in front of people, whether it's your first time or whether you've done it subsequent times, I'm pretty sure all of us has experienced some level of anxiety. This particular presentation will go over the different types of anxiety, or different types of triggers, and how to better control your fear as you present your speech. The following is a list of anxiety triggers. New and unknown situations. One example is an icebreaker speech. For some people, that might be the very first time they have spoken in front of other people, no matter what size the Toastmasters Club is. Even if there's 2 or 3 people the speaker is speaking in front of, they may have fear still. Risk or fear of failure. Whatever we do, whether it's a speech or whether we're involved in extracurricular activities at school or on the job, especially if it's a high-pressure job where you have deadlines, we all have experienced a fear of failure or risk of failure. Potential of appearing foolish. That can occur when you present in a speech, such as too many filler words, freezing up, and many other types. of situations. The possibility of boring an audience, whether you end up reading your whole speech in monotone, or whether the subject is not as exciting for the audience, there's a possibility of boring the audience. I will briefly give some real-life examples for myself as far as new and unknown situations. When I was a senior in high school, I was in a JROTC program, and I was on a battalion staff, and we had to go to a junior high school to present our positions. And mainly because of lack of preparation, I got in front of the junior high school students and I froze for about 10 seconds. And then I slowly worked my way through my part of the presentation, but that's an example of anxiety in new or unknown situations. Potential of appearing foolish, at least in my mind. I don't know about the audience's mind, but in some situations, I just felt that I was just speaking foolishly. You know, I was maybe doing too many filler words, stammering, freezing up. But you will find that some of these feelings are more in your head than it actually appears to your audience. Anxiety symptoms: increased heart rate. Naturally, through any situation, through fear or nervousness, your heart rate will go up at least a little bit, if not a lot. But sometimes that increased heart rate might be because you're excited about giving your subject matter. Butterflies in the stomach. Along with increased heart rate, that's another symptom of anxiety or fear. Uncontrollable shakes. I don't know if I've experienced it, but I think I've seen some situations where some people may have gone through that. You know, fellow Toastmasters said, "Oh, no, sorry." You know. And in these last two, lightheadedness and dizziness, that's an extreme case of anxiety or fear. If you're ever in that situation, don't be afraid to abandon your speech and just tell someone, I can't do this. Because you don't want to faint or fall out during your speech in front of whatever size audience you're presenting to. Managing anxiety. The first is experience, which occurs, for example, in the Toastmasters Club. You do so many speeches, you do so many table topics, and as you do each table topics or each speech, you slowly learn how to get over nervousness and fear, if you have that. And ways to get experience: practice in front of a mirror. And one little example, my father has done it for years and years. In the morning, he does a routine where he does little phrases in front of a mirror. She sells seashells on the seashore. And he's been doing it for years and years. I think he's still doing it today. Rehearse in front of family or friends, which shouldn't be too much different from doing it in front of your Toastmasters Club. deliver a speech before your Toastmasters Club, as I stated earlier. Go through your manual speeches, through your table topics, even perform a role like Toastmaster or General Evaluator. That would help to some extent. Give presentations before other groups, anywhere you can, whether it's on your job or if you're in a social club or any other, or a business club. Visualization. Use your thought processes to achieve positive results. When you really visualize yourself giving a speech, your nervous system and your brain really can't distinguish the difference between you visualizing it and you doing it for real in front of an audience, if you visualize hard enough. And some things you can visualize is getting in front of the lectern, taking deep breaths before you give your speech, and each step of your speech you can visualize yourself saying, "Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests," and that in so many ways may help to alleviate anxiety or nervousness. Relaxation. In that speech packet, the presentation packet, there are a number of exercises, and I'll give a few examples. Shrugging your shoulders, tightening your shoulders, then just letting it back down, letting your shoulders back down again, and then also taking deep breaths. In that particular packet, you can lay down and put a book on top of your abdomen, and it'll tell you whether or not you're breathing through your diaphragm, and that's the main thing. Use your diaphragm while you're breathing. And another exercise is to just stick your arms out parallel to the floor, twirl 10 times forward, and then twirl 10 times in reverse. So that's an example of isometric exercises, breathing techniques. Conclusion: it is normal to feel nervous or feel anxiety when you present a speech. But the thing to do is to perform some of the exercises, and I think personally, I either do it subconsciously, I don't remember consciously doing any of those exercises, but they would help if you need to perform those exercises. And as I stated earlier, your audience probably won't notice the amount of nervousness that's going through your system. I mean, unless it's really extreme, like fellow Toastmasters. So all these steps are germane to giving a better speech while controlling your fear. Mr. Toastmaster. Next, we'll have our table topics, and our table topics master for tonight will be Diego.
Thank you, Maurice. Fellow Toastmasters, I can't help but notice how germane the topics that I'm going to be sharing with you all today when it comes to table topics. The first, prepared speech, involved wisdom and intelligence in a pursuit and understanding what those elements mean. And then the second speech gave us some nice tips on how to reduce one's anxiety, especially for taking on public speaking roles that someone has not necessarily been involved with until this moment. So for those two purposes, I find the exercises and the topics that I'm going to be discussing with you all today to be very germane indeed. Moving on. I don't know, I hope I've communicated this well enough to everyone in the audience today and in previous meetings, but for someone like me, the pursuit of knowledge, truth, wisdom, intelligence really is something that drives me every day. And today I want to explore with the Table Topics Masters, the Table Topics volunteers, what they think wisdom, intelligence, and a pursuit of truth and knowledge means to them. With that said, do we have a first Table Topics explorer? Cody. Thank you for volunteering, Cody. Everyone in this room has been trained to be specialized in a particular thing, whether it's water resources, management, engineering such as yourself, computer engineering in the back, chemical engineering, and entrepreneurship. What field of knowledge do you see yourself applying on a regular basis that doesn't involve engineering?
So the field of knowledge that I apply the most, it doesn't have to be engineering. Actually, that's pretty easy because I don't do a lot of engineering in my job. It's the ability to look this. No, I'm just kidding. But let's see. Field of knowledge. So I think just general communication. I mean, that's a body of knowledge that's really relevant that we don't spend a lot of time in school teaching people. And doing clubs like this, talking to people, getting in front of people, presenting, talking about ideas, meeting is very important. And you can have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't communicate them, then they're basically worthless because no one else can hear them or understand them. So that's actually been a big part of kind of excelling at my job and proving myself and doing a good job is communicating. I thought I'd be doing a lot of calculations and math and physics, but actually I communicate a lot. I make sure things get done, I take information in, synthesize it, listen, and display that to other people. So that is an area of knowledge that I use on a regular basis.
Well done, Cody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have a second Table Topics volunteer? Rosemary, thank you for stepping up to the plate. What I want to pick your brains about today, what is the difference between education and learning, in your view?
Diego posed a question, what do I think the difference between learning and education is? When I think of education, I think of, formal education, going to school. You go to elementary, kindergarten through 12th grade, potentially college, potentially other degrees on top of that if you want to do that. And learning, I think, is broader than education. I think you can do learning, you don't necessarily need an institution, you can learn on your own, and I think that's actually somewhat greater than the quote-unquote institution of education. If you have the drive and the will to learn on your own and self-improve and broaden your mind, broaden your horizons, increase the scope or the breadth of your world, I think that's a lot greater than just getting a degree or going through what society tells you is mandatory. So that's what I think the difference is.
Thank you so
Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Table Topics Master. Do we have another volunteer who wants to talk about their ideas and concepts of wisdom and knowledge and intelligence? Thanks, Thomas. Your question is,
Figure's harder. I can tell now.
What is one thing you think you can't learn from a book, but you can only learn from experience and time?
Fellow Toastmasters. Honestly, the only thing I think you can not learn from a book, but you can only learn from experience and time, is the application of physics. Now that sounds very specific, but you'll understand why. So we all understand that a building stands up, and we can figure out why a building stands up, and when someone explains it to us, it makes sense. But it doesn't make sense because they explained it great. It makes sense because that's the way we've seen it for however many years it took us to finally have that explained to us. We learn how force works, but when we're finally explained how force works in 8th grade physics class, it makes sense because I've been throwing balls with my dad my entire life. And so how physics actually works in the real world is something that, yeah, we take the class and we learn the math behind it, but the actual how physics works, we only actually do learn through experience. And then just somebody explains it to us like, oh yeah, I've seen that a million times when I pushed the cart down the street. And so personally, I think one of the things, there may be a few others, but one of the things that definitely you can't learn without the experience is how physics really works. Mr. Tabletop Toastmaster.
Thank you, Thomas. That was actually one area of knowledge I didn't think could be. When I thought of this,
You asked an engineer, boy.
that was not the first thing that would come out. But hey, we're all about differences of opinions. Do we have another volunteer to explore?
That came to mind, but I didn't think they were appropriate. What's your name?
Maurice. Kind of going back to Cody's remarks on how important it is to communicate. Everyone in this room has a capacity to learn for themselves a particular topic or a particular subject or a field of knowledge, but it takes a really special individual to be able to take in knowledge and then to share it with everyone else. What do you think make the elements of a great teacher?
What element makes a great teacher? Well, incidentally, even though I don't have a degree in education, I did substitute for a month and a half. And the kids ate me up. I mean, I let the kids eat me up, I guess. I didn't put my foot down from the start. So, from experience, I may not know exactly all the traits that makes a good teacher, even though I did get praise from maybe a parent or two that their child actually learned something. So that's but I will give it a shot. An element of a good teacher, because I realize not everyone that is highly skilled at something knows how to teach it. So one element of a good teacher is just being able to break down the steps of what they know how to do. For example, I'll make it simple, how to change a tire. You tell the person to jack up the car, put the jack under the proper jack point, raise the jack handle up and down till the car gets to a certain height. And of course you loosen the bolts before you do all that. See, that's why I'm not a good teacher. And I thought it was simple. I thought this was simple. It's not. But remove the bolts lift up the car, remove the tire, put the spare tire on, put the bolts on as tight as possible, let the jack down, and then tighten the bolts real tight. Mr. Topic Master.
Thank you, Mark,
Thank you.
for making it through that.
You've got a lot of wisdom.
I think you, yeah, that's.
Okay.
Yeah, good. That's an lecture.
Diego's a little disappointed with the information he got today.
Oh my god, this is the most I've laughed in one of these meetings.
I set the tone with the first speech.
Yeah,
We have time for one more
yeah.
table topic.
I'll do it.
We kind of have to, because there's only two people left in the room who haven't.
Oh yeah, there's us two.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Let's hear it.
So Mike, a lot of us, I think the most common way that we take in knowledge outside of an institution, outside of a tutor, outside of a person, is through nonfiction books, chemistry 101 books, things like that. What piece of knowledge or wisdom have you gained from a fiction book or a movie or a film, something that's not nonfiction necessarily? What piece of knowledge or wisdom have you gained from fiction?
All right, fellow Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Diego posed the question of what useful piece of knowledge have I learned from a fiction book? And this brings me back to a book that I read, I guess, 6 months ago or so, which was Don Quixote. And it's a very popular fiction book. Very many people have read it. And I decided to, off of a recommendation, and it was a complete bore for a lot of reasons. It was very difficult to get through. It's an older book, and a lot of the language made it so that some pages took several minutes to get through. And I found many times that it was very difficult to get some utility out of it. But there was one pretty amazing moral to the story. And for those unfamiliar with Don Quixote, it's about this guy who's completely delusional. He thinks he's a knight when knights really aren't a thing anymore. It's not quite like it, but if someone wanted to be a knight right now, it'd be like, all right, well, they've got a... Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's not very common. And he goes on all these escapades trying to be a hero. And it was really funny because in spite of all his ridiculousness, in spite of everybody totally making fun of him, he was so delusional and so hard-headed that he actually made a difference in people's lives. He, despite being a complete idiot from every perspective, he actually helped some people. And I guess what I learned from it is no matter how knowledgeable you necessarily are, no matter how prepared you are for anything, no matter how delusional you are, if you stay true to your mission, and if you go through it 100%, you can be faulted in so many different ways, but really make a strong impact. And that was the moral of the story, and I thought it was rather brilliant. So, Mr. Topics Master.
All right, everyone. I think I've run the pot dry when it comes to exploring these kinds of topics with y'all. So I'm going to return it back to the Toastmaster. Thank you.
All right. At this time, we'll go to our evaluation period, and our general evaluator for tonight is Cody.
I will be evaluating the meeting for tonight. So we started about a minute late, but we got rolling. We went over elections. Diego's going to pick between either VP, PR, or membership. Toss up, maybe flip a coin after the meeting. And everything went pretty smooth. Tabletops went a little long, but that was fine. I mean, we have a small group, so that's not a big deal. We should get through this last portion pretty quickly. And that's about it for the general evaluation of the meeting. Now I'd like to introduce the first evaluator tonight, which is going to be Mike. He's going to evaluate Thomas.
Are you, Tommy?
Yeah.
Fellow Toastmasters, I just gave my table topics portion of the speech, and I found myself eating my words a little bit, saying that there's no modern day knights, because there truly are, now that I've listened to Thomas's speech. And I must say that was, without a doubt, the most brutally authentic and brave speech I've heard given for this club, and for that I wrote down bravery as an 18. I'd say there was also fantastic timing and great relation to the real world. Dungeons and Dragons may not be a topic that the common audience knows that much about, but you did a great job of relating it to shopping bags, of driving and getting in accidents, of how you are at work and all the crazy things that happen in your everyday life. And these are not just your everyday life, these crazy things happen in all of our lives. So it was very easily related to listening to your speech, and that just made it all the more entertaining, and it really gave, it showed the fantastic preparation that you gave in giving this speech. I would say the one thing that I think you could have even done more is related even more so to Dungeons and Dragons. And in that, you did such a great job of making it relatable to all of us and really understanding the topic at hand. You could have taken it a step further and you could have predicted how you would have done in Dungeons and Dragons, whether you would have been slayed or whether you would have come out triumphant. I think that could have been a really funny talking point, and I don't think it would be stepping out of bounds, making anyone confused as to what was going on. I think it would be rather germane to your presentation. But all that being said, I thought it was a fantastic speech. I thought you made it clear from the first 30 seconds that this was going to be an entertaining speech, and that was just by your very sheer enthusiasm. And through your enthusiasm and your countenance, regardless of how you are at work sometimes, I thought it was very charming. It was, once again, so very brutally authentic. I thought that it just really captured everybody's minds, and it was a complete honor to evaluate the speech. I thought you did a fantastic job, Thomas. So I'll turn this back to the general evaluator.
Thank you, Mike. That was a good evaluation of Thomas' speech. And a lot of laughs in today. It was always great. So now we will move into the evaluation of Maurice's speech, which I'll be doing tonight. So the topic was controlling your fear, and this was out of the, explaining the Better series, and he did a Better series speech on controlling your fear. So the first question in this review, how effective was the speaker at introducing the audience to the Better series presentation? I thought he did a good job of giving us all the information that's in it, but it was a little confusing to me because there's just so much. So maybe a slide like listing everything just so I could see it written out would have been helpful in that portion, but you did give us everything we needed to know about it, so good job. Was the presenter adequately prepared? How heavily did he rely on his notes? I thought you were very well prepared. Your slides worked, they went smooth, you didn't have any issues. I didn't notice you using any notes. You just used the slides as cues to talk about your topics, to prompt the topics. How did the speaker use vocal variety to enhance this presentation? I thought your vocal variety was good. You had some ups and downs. You sped it up a little bit, slowed it down, raised your voice at some periods, which is good. Tough for a 15-minute speech to kind of not go into one tone of voice, so good job. What other techniques did the speaker use to personalize and augment the presentation? Were they effective? Stepped away from the lectern, which was good. You're comfortable up here. You could sense that you were comfortable. There's always a plus when you're giving a speech. You use big body language gestures, which continue to grab the audience during a slideshow. A lot of people have a tendency to just kind of point to the slides, and you didn't do that, which is good. And you demonstrated some emotion by acting out, doing some acting, and I got some laughs. It was good. I enjoyed that when you grabbed the lectern and shook it. Did the speaker display visuals smoothly and at appropriate times? Yes. I thought the slides, like I said, were smooth. They were concise, not too much information on them, which is good. I was able to read them. One problem I would say is you caught it, as I couldn't really see the TV that well because the laptop.
Yeah.
So that was blocking some of the visual display, but other than that, it went smoothly. What aspects of the speaker's presentation style did you find unique? Like I said, you were comfortable, the slides were reliable, good content, and I liked some of the emotions that you acted out. Did the speaker present the material clearly and simple to the audience? Yes, again, the points you're trying to make, you made them well, good slides, and just that little bit of information at the beginning was confusing. That's only kind of improvement. What could the speaker have done differently to make the presentation more effective? Move the laptop off the lectern, and which you did halfway through the speech was good. What did you like about the presentation? Clean, easy to read slides, and the acting out of the emotions. So thank you, Maurice. Good job.
All right.
Okay, now we will go into the timer report, which will be done by Mike.
All right. Thomas's speech was 6 minutes, 7 seconds. Maurice was 11 minutes, 53 seconds. For table topics, this might be a little out of order, but I got everyone. Cody was 1 minute 18. Rosemary was 1 minute 15. Thomas was 1 minute 35. Maurice was 2 minutes 10. Diego, whoa, how do I have Diego?
That's you.
Oh, that's me. That makes sense.
You're supposed to be you.
Yeah, me, I did 2 minutes 9. My evaluation was 2 minutes 37, and Cody's evaluation was 3 minutes 12. I think everybody generally got within the time frame, I guess. Yeah, I think you can go
30 seconds over.
You can go 30 seconds over, so I think everybody did a good job of keeping within a lot of time.
All right, thank you, Mike, for the timer report. Now Rosemary will give us the grammarian report for tonight.
For the grammarian report, the odd counter report, I don't know if this is indicative of my mindset tonight, but I didn't catch any crush words, except I noticed I said in mine, and Cody
said so.
said, there were some so's in there.
I heard some so's this meeting.
And I think I was just really engaged in all these speeches, so I apologize. And word of the day, Diego used the word of the day, Maurice and Mike. So got a half of us, or a little less than us, so that's pretty good.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Great grammarian report. So that will end the evaluation portion of the meeting. I will now relinquish the lectern back to our Toastmaster members.
Okay, there are no awards tonight, no educational overview at 7:42, so I will relinquish the lectern back to the president.
Okay, just the only thing that we have then is our acting VP of Education, Cody. He's going to go over our agenda for next week.
Yeah. Does anyone want to volunteer?
I can give a speech.
Okay.
You can put me down for something that's not the second speaker.
I think Rosemary's going to evaluate that
Maybe
speech.
Toastmaster? Huh?
You want to be Toastmaster? Is that what you said?
Yeah. King of the castle.
I should be here next week, but I mean, my family still probably won't be back into town. That's actually one of the reasons I'm also here. No children to have to look after. So you can put me down for anything but a speech, just so that I'm giving the opportunity to someone else this next week.
I'll pick something rough, fill it in.
Yeah, just fill it in for me. I'll be excited to fill in whatever role I need to. I'll be doing warrants
Yeah.
tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, if you change your mind or you decide you want something to go on easy speaking.
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, if you're having
let's do
issues
that.
getting on Easy Speak, email Cody directly and I'll add it. Because you can do that now. Okay, unless there's something else, meeting's adjourned.